Hey everyone, this is Mr. Dunkel. I'm going to do a quick review of the study guide for the nationalism test. I'll be reading along with the study guide. However, I do have some images to kind of supplement that and hopefully will help get you prepared for the test. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, to kind of get us where we are at this point in time, some of the things we've discussed so far is that the American and French revolutions really helped to inspire people to want to rule themselves. So even in areas where people did not intend to overthrow the monarchy, people still sought for reforms that gave more power to the people rather than power being held solely by the elite. As people began to question their world around them and the rules that governed them, they began to look deeper at themselves as a group. For instance, they considered what it was that bound them together as a group. Was it their language? Was it land, their physical traits, their traditions, their religions, their shared history, etc.? So these thoughts led many to take pride in their country and what makes them unique. Now, the Industrial Revolution also helped to further these feelings of pride. Some countries gained great wealth through industrialization, and their increased technology helped them to succeed on the battlefield. As they made more money and gave more land, many began to feel superior to other countries. This led to an intense pride in one's country, which we refer to as nationalism. Now, in regards to German unification, many German-speaking people lived in a variety of small and medium-sized states in Europe that each had its own rulers. So after losing a lot of territory to Napoleon of France and then later defeating him, the German states realized that they had a problem. If they remained totally independent states, then they wouldn't be able to defend themselves very well against larger nations. However, if they united as one, then each independent state would have to dismantle its government. Since the rulers of the states did not want to give up their power, they decided to keep their independence, yet form an alliance with one another. This was called the German Confederation. So what you're seeing here in this map is showing you some of the German states. Like in blue, you see the Kingdom of Prussia, and then you see other parts that were German states. Prussia is going to be kind of the strongest of the German states. So similar to the 13 colonies in America that realized that they must join together if they wanted to become their own country, some people in the German Confederation wanted to unite the states into a single German nation. These people are referred to as nationalists as they sought to create a nation. One step towards unification was the establishment of Zollverein, an economic policy that removed tariff barriers between the German states. Before Zollverein, the German states had high taxes and obstacles that made it difficult to trade goods between the independent states. Zollverein joined the states together by removing those barriers, which made it easier for all of the German states to trade goods. While this was a good first step towards a unified Germany, it still wasn't successful in unifying the states as a single country. Otto von Bismarck, he was the chancellor, which is the highest position given by a monarch, under King William I of Prussia, which is one of the most powerful German states. It was the big blue one we saw on the previous slide. Bismarck was determined to unify the German states under Prussia. While technically not a nationalist, he was more concerned with helping out the monarchy of Prussia than just unifying Germany. Bismarck did several things that led to unification. First, Bismarck practiced the policy of realpolitik, realistic government policies based on the needs of the state. In other words, Bismarck did not focus on the Enlightenment ideals of the individual, but rather he focused on what was best for the state. He believed that Prussia needed a strong army, and through the power of blood and iron, they could conquer other lands and achieve a unified Germany. Bismarck led Prussia to victories over Denmark and Austria, and used some trickery to engage France in a war. Since he knew that might be difficult to get the Prussian people to support starting a war against France, he angered the French so that they would start a war against Prussia. Bismarck took a telegram, the EMS dispatch, that had been written by King William I of Prussia to a French ambassador, and he changed it so that it insulted the French. When Napoleon III read the altered telegram, it enraged him so much that he declared war on Prussia just as Bismarck had hoped. The Prussians quickly defeated France. With the victories Bismarck and the Prussians had over their neighbors, German pride and nationalism grew. The rulers over the various German states convinced King William I of Prussia to become the new leader of a unified Germany, just as Bismarck had hoped, and they called him Kaiser, which means emperor. They formed a government with a two-house legislature, similar to how our Congress has two houses, the Senate and the House of Representatives. The upper house, called the Bundesrat, was made up of representatives that were appointed by the rulers of the different states. Thus, this house included the wealthy citizens that were often friends with the rulers. The lower house, called the Reichstag, had representatives that were elected by vote. All men were able to vote, but no women could. Although the Reichstag better represented the people in Germany, the Bundesrat was able to veto their decisions, so the real power remained with the elite. Unification of Italy. Like the German states, the region of Italy was divided into many different areas. Although they all spoke Italian, they were very proud of their individual characteristics. For instance, the people of Venice considered themselves Venetians rather than Italians. The people of Tuscany considered themselves Tuscans rather than Italians. These regional differences made it difficult to unite them as one country. And if you notice at the map, you'll see some of those areas like Venetia, Kingdom of Sardinia, which is in green. That's going to be very important when we talk about Cavour. And then in the blue area, especially Sicily or the Kingdom of the Two Sicilies in blue, down at the boot area is real important next when we talk about Garibaldi. Giuseppe Mazzini started a revolutionary group called Young Italy and fought to unify Italy. Although Mazzini was unsuccessful, he helped to further the thought of unification. Camillo Cavour, the prime minister of the Italian state of Sardinia in the northern part of Italy, which was the green section on the previous map, he also wanted the Italian states to unify. Like Bismarck in Germany, Cavour served under a king, Victor Emmanuel II, and wanted the king to rule all of Italy. Cavour also believed in realpolitik and used war to help unify the people. Cavour wanted to get Austria out of northern Italy, so he provoked a war with Austria, and because Sardinia had an alliance with France, who came to help him, Cavour and the Sardinians won. With Austria out of the way, several of the northern Italian states joined with Sardinia. In the southern part of Italy, Giuseppe Garibaldi led a 1,000-plus nationalists called the Red Shirts to overthrow Sicily. Garibaldi and his Red Shirts won and quickly took control over the southern part of Italy. Garibaldi then marched to Naples, where he won with the help of the Sardinians. Instead of trying to rule these areas himself, Garibaldi turned over southern Italy to Victor Emmanuel II, who became the king over almost all of Italy. The only two places that remained independent were Venetia and Rome, but by 1870, through a deal and a war, both joined with the rest to make a unified Italy. With Italy unified for the first time since the Roman Empire, they established a constitutional monarchy, which is ruled by a king, but where there's also a constitution that sets rules for everyone. Victor Emmanuel II remained king of Italy, and they set up a two-house government like Germany. Just like in Germany, the members of the upper house were appointed to their positions, and the members of the lower house were elected through a vote. But unlike in Germany, only a few men were allowed to vote. The Habsburg Empire and Austria-Hungary. And if you'll notice on these maps, you'll see Habsburg spelled two different ways. Sometimes you'll see it with a B, and sometimes you'll see it with a P, but both are referring to the same family. So in Europe, the longest ruling family was the Habsburg family, which ruled Austria. Because of this, the Habsburgs were very much against the revolutions and unifications that had been happening in America, France, Germany, and Italy, because they were afraid it would lead Austrians to want to overthrow them. Unlike in Germany, where there was a stronger sense of nationalism, as the German people spoke the same language, had similar traditions, etc., Austria was made up of many different ethnic groups with different languages and traditions. King Joseph, the King of Austria, worried that these different groups would try to seek their own independence and break away. For instance, the Hungarians in Austria were calling for changes as they wanted to rule themselves. In addition to the problems with different groups in Austria calling for change, wars with the French, Germans, and Italians weakened the Austrian Empire. So in an effort to keep the Habsburgs in control over Austria and to strengthen their empire, King Joseph made a deal with the Hungarian leader to join the two into a dual monarchy called Austria-Hungary. This new alliance allowed the Hungarians to be independent of Austria on most things, but King Joseph remained their king, and they shared regarding finance, defense, and foreign affairs. In other words, instead of taking the risk of the Hungarians might try to revolt and leave, King Joseph offered the Hungarians a chance to be somewhat independent while still remaining under Habsburg rule. Although this alliance would keep the Habsburg family in control of Austria-Hungary, it wouldn't be long before the monarchy was in threat again due to the unrest by its citizens and the outbreak of World War I. And if you notice on this map, you'll see on the left the map there that has all the colors. It's just showing you many of the different ethnic groups that were under the Habsburg Empire. And so there were several different groups, that had different traditions and languages and things of that nature. The upper right chart just shows you the House of Habsburg, which is the Habsburg family, and how many of their people had ruled. And so we are seeing the reds. Those are, kings, queens that were ruling. So the Habsburg family ruled much of Europe for a long period of time. So they had a very long rule in Central Europe especially. And in the bottom right, you see the Austria-Hungary combination there. And what's interesting, what it's showing you, the dark red line is showing you what Austria-Hungary, the size of Austria-Hungary was leading into World War I. And then basically after that and up till today, how many of those places have broken up to become their own independent countries like Slovakia and Czech Republic and Hungary and Bosnia-Herzegovina and things of that nature. So it's definitely an area that has changed quite a bit over the last 100 years. The Ottoman Empire. Like the Habsburg, the Ottomans ruled a large empire of people with very different languages, traditions, etc. The Ottoman Empire had grown weak over the years due to being too large to effectively control, in addition to having leaders who were less motivated to conquer and rule. Other Europeans referred to the Ottoman Empire as the sick man of Europe, because it was like a sick man nearing death. Rival groups, the Germans, the Russians, England, France, Austria, Hungary, etc., took advantage of the Ottoman Empire's weakness and started seizing parts of the empire. These attacks, along with the calls for independence by various groups under Ottoman rule, made the empire ripe for a collapse, which would occur after World War I. And so what you're seeing in the map on the right, the Ottoman Empire at the start of World War I, which is 1914, is the darker orange color. But you can see in the lighter orange color all the other areas the Ottoman Empire used to entail. And so they had a really large empire throughout northern Africa, areas like Greece that you see there in Serbia and Romania. However, over time, they're going to lose control of that. And on the picture on the left, what you see, this is a political cartoon that's showing the sick man of Europe. And in essence, it's showing all the countries that are just chomping at the bit to get into the Ottoman Empire and start pulling away part of their land and take over resources and things in that area. So to recap, with the revolutions in America and France showing the rest of the world that it's possible to remove one king and rule independently, more and more people of Europe wanted independence. In empires where the people had similar traits, spoke the same language, had similar religious beliefs and traditions, etc., they were able to unify to make a stronger nation. Germany and Italy are examples. In empires with a lot of ethnic diversity, people spoke different languages, had different religious views or traditions. It was difficult to get them to unify as one country, so instead, the different groups often sought to break away and become their own independent country. This ethnic diversity weakened the once strong empires, like the Habsburg of Austria or the Ottoman Empire, and set them up for collapse. And what you're seeing here in these two pictures is there are just some pictures of nationalism and the big picture with all the people holding flags. This is what we're seeing during this time, are people are really taking pride in their country and they're viewing themselves, they have similar interests, similar traditions, things of that nature, and they're taking pride in who they are, but often sometimes that pride leads to arrogance, that they're better than others. And so if they've industrialized early, like you see England here is front and center, and it's really big. England's the first to industrialize. They were very wealthy and, in essence, felt a little superior to many of the other places. The picture cartoon on the right is kind of one of the negative things that people say with nationalism is oftentimes people can take it too far and you let your pride blindly lead you. And as you see here in the cartoon, they're being led off a cliff. And unfortunately, that's somewhat what happened in World War I, because they blindly went in thinking that, oh, we'll just come in and conquer and we'll be done with it. And it turned out to be a lot harder than they believed. And that's what we'll be studying next time. So good luck in studying, and I hope you do on the test. As always, if you have any questions, just let us know.